Brian, thank you so much for taking the time to talk about your experience with Collibra and data governance. Can you tell me about why you started on data governance and the challenges you faced?
Sure. So Schwab formed a global data organization, is what we call it, back in 2014. To that point, we hadn't had what I call a laser focus on data as a firm. And we knew that one of the first priorities we needed to tackle was data governance. And so as we began developing the operating model and really what the purpose was going to be, we're a regulated firm, so we knew we had to meet regulatory requirements. But Schwab also always likes to look at those efforts as a business value opportunity. And so as we started to form our data governance model, it was going to be critical for us to engage the business. So as we started looking on the landscape of tools that were available, Collibra popped to the top because of its laser focus from the business perspective.
Okay, interesting. And why now? Why do this now and not 5 years ago or in 5 years?
Yeah, I think that, like many financial services firms, after the crash from 2008, 2009, 2010, we were really more in a lights-on mode. I mean, we were developing new products and services, but we weren't in a position to really be able to step back and look organizationally and say, what do we need to be doing from a data management perspective? So our chief marketing officer is the one who actually was pushing for this role because the marketing organization feels the pain of disparate data. Yeah. So that was really the impetus for getting the organization going.
That's interesting, because in a lot of financial services organizations, you typically hear it from more from a risk or a finance perspective. Was it only marketing, or was it across the board? Like, who felt the pain the most?
I think that everybody was feeling pain. I think that it was hard for folks to know where to begin, right? Risk certainly felt the pain. Finance felt the pain. I mean, as we did our early strategy development, we got a lot of our pain points, and it was across the organization. I think that it was just going to be such a big thing to tackle that the question was, where's the best place for this to sit and to be done?
Yeah, that makes sense. And as you started to realize that you wanted to do something, what was really important from a technology perspective that you felt was a high priority to really need?
Sure. So as I mentioned, we wanted this to be business-led. We wanted it to be technology-enabled. So as we began to look at the tool set that was available, frankly, we found that many of the tools were very technology-focused. And as we thought about engaging business people in this process, they were going to have additive work. This was going to be new for them. We wanted it to be easy. So we were really focused on finding a tool that would be very easy for them to engage. And in fact, find a tool that they would like to be engaging with on a daily basis to help deliver value in their organization.
Yeah. To make it as easy as possible.
Exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense. Who in the business particularly is using the tool the most? Are there specific roles, or is it across the board?
So right now we're in a pretty limited rollout. We acquired the tool back in October of last year. And so we are focused in about 5 or 6 key areas of data. And so it is limited to the data owners, the stewards, and then my team, which is the data governance office team, and the technology team that is supporting us. So it's a pretty limited group right now, but certainly our vision and plan is to expand it very, very broadly and wide.
Okay. Can you talk a little bit more about the scope? Is it about reporting? Is it about analytics? Is it about master data? Is it about quality? What's the perspective right now?
All the above.
All of the above.
Yeah. So I think that as we did the assessment of pains, they really fell into two big categories. Okay. One was meaning, right? Around, I don't know what this term means, or I think this term means this, and somebody else thinks it means something differently. The second was really around quality, right? So I can't trust my data. I mean, we've heard this talked about at the conference. And so those were, I'd say, the buckets of pain points. And so we organized around those. So when we acquired the tool set, Collibra being our centerpiece for our business folks from the glossary workflow perspective. And then we also are engaging Oracle EDQ as part of the tool, and clearly the integration back to Collibra is really important to us. So those are our really 2 focus areas at this juncture.
Yeah. Oh, that makes sense. You touched on workflow very briefly. Can you tell us a bit more why that was important?
We felt that being able to track, being able to understand where we are at any time in the process around our governance, and being able to report out was very important. I'd say also, consumers of data, we want them to have information into the data that they're consuming. And so we felt it was very important to, longer term, for a consumer to be able to come to a place, be able to see the data, be able to see the quality and any related issues that might have surfaced within a period of time, because we believe in that transparency to our consumers.
How would you describe the before and after Collibra, and what's the big difference?
Sure. So we were running a pilot before we did Collibra of governance in three key areas, and we were mired in spreadsheets. So from a versioning control perspective, I'd say also just from an adoption perspective, we knew longer term that was not going to suffice. It was not going to allow us to scale to where we want to be 3 to 5 years out. So being able to bring Collibra in and see the promise of where it was going to bring us and really give us that single repository that would be easy to maintain, easily accessible, was, I'd say, of the utmost importance to us.
Interesting. Looking forward, what are your kind of goals? How far do you want to take it? What are the next steps you want to make?
Sure. So we see one of the big promises for us of Collibra is really this crowdsourcing capability. So right now, as I mentioned, we're very focused on users that are within the governance world. Our longer term plan, I'd say probably about a year out, is to unleash the glossary on the firm. So to allow anybody to be able to access the glossary. And then through that, be able to really enhance the information that we have in there. So we don't see governance as an end. I know you feel the same way. We see it as a continued ability to provide transparency and to get better about the information that we have. So I personally am very excited about that, when we're able to have reps on the phone, be able to interact with the data and interact with data owners and stewards in a very seamless, easy way. That to me is really exciting.
No, I think we're absolutely on the same page on that one. And then maybe in the big data ecosystem, everything's around data right now, right? How do you position Collibra and all the tools around data that exist today?
So I would say we see a lot of potential use cases for Collibra. I'm very excited to see the cataloging capability that you've introduced here, because we think that there's tremendous value in being able to engage our analytic group, which is a separate organization from our data management group. And so we see that as promise. I would also say that, again, this idea of crowdsourcing cannot be underestimated in terms of what it can do to, as you guys like to say, get people to be data citizens, right? We really want people to be thinking about data differently. And I can tell you that there's an example of a data owner who recently was established as one, and she said she hadn't even started doing any work. And she said to me, you know what, it's changed the way I look at data now. When I have exceptions come to me, I'm thinking differently about how I approve those exceptions. We believe that Collibra, that's something that Collibra can help us do beyond just our governance organization.
It's almost driving a cultural change in the organization.
Absolutely. Which we think is really key.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. It's exciting.
Thank you for having me.